very much, Mr. Deputy Speaker. The House will know of my very long-standing interest in the issue of Kashmir. In my constituency of Birmingham Ladywood, there are many thousands of British citizens of Kashmiri extraction who have made their home in my constituency, and I take an interest on their behalf, but I also take an interest that is more personal in nature, because my own family originate from Kashmir. All four of my grandparents were born in Kashmir before my family moved to this country, and so this debate has very personal resonance for me, both for my constituency, myself and my own family. The member for Bury North has already set out the background to this very long-standing dispute, and I pay tribute to him and to the others who led the charge to secure today's backbench business debate. We have heard already, Mr. Deputy Speaker, this is a very long-standing dispute between two nuclear-armed powers in one of the world's most heavily militarized regions, and it does not receive enough attention anywhere outside of that region around the world, and certainly not in our own country, given the size of our British Kashmiri population. It certainly has a lot of attention from that population, but not enough from those outside of that. But I do therefore pay tribute to all of the doughty campaigners on this issue from all sides of the House, who have been taking every opportunity available to raise this very serious matter in this House of Commons, and to press our government, both this current government and previous governments, to do more in helping to build a resolution to this long-standing crisis. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the further push for debate regarding Kashmir has come in particular as a result of the upsurge in violence and fighting that we've seen in Indian-administered Jammu and Kashmir from last summer. And what we see there, Mr. Deputy Speaker, is the unacceptable failure of the whole world and the denial to give effect to UN resolutions, to respect the self-determination of the Kashmiri people, playing out in the worst possible way, because the people have lost hope, and they are rising against that loss of hope to try and force their rights to be respected. That significant upsurge in violence, Mr. Deputy Speaker, has elicited a brutal response from the Indian authorities. I'm afraid to say I wholeheartedly disagree with my honourable friend, the member for Ealing Southall. I do not believe it is possible to minimise the extent to which the Indian authorities have acted in a disproportionate manner that has significantly harmed and indeed created great tragedy for the Kashmiri people in that region. This is the biggest uprising in 2 decades, and the brutality of the response of the police and security services cannot be ignored. That is the case, Mr. Speaker, is upheld by human rights organisations from across the world, including Human Rights Watch, whose World Report for 2017 found clear evidence that the police and security forces have acted with impunity, that there have been extrajudicial killings, mass rape has occurred. All of these things, Mr. Deputy Speaker, are not acceptable, and I also concur with the comments made in the speech by the Honourable Member for High Wycombe that, of course, there will be questions about the veracity of the videos that we all see on YouTube and on Facebook and elsewhere on social media, but there should be an open investigation to prove the veracity of those videos, and if they are true, which I believe they will be found to be true, then there are big questions for India as a government to answer. And the very significant difference, I have to say to my honourable friend, the member for Ealing Southall, between the Indian government and the other governments that also commit human rights abuses, is that India is the largest democracy in the world, and as a democracy, it is not simply an act of giving a vote to your people to decide their government. It actually includes much more, which is about fundamental respect for the rule of law and for basic human rights which have to be protected, that sit alongside the ability of a people to elect their own government. I'm afraid due to time, I think I would be doing other members out of their time if I gave way. I do apologise. The use of pellet guns, Mr. Deputy Speaker, has also been raised by members already, but I think this is a really significant issue for the Indian government, and it is something on which our government must press them more. The Indian defence for the use of pellet guns to see off protesters who they say are throwing stones has been that pellet guns are non-lethal. Well, yes, of course, a pellet gun is probably not going to kill you, but I defy anybody to see the pictures of the victims of those pellet gun attacks to say that that is a proportionate response to use against civilians in a democracy. It is not, and nobody, I believe, in this House of Commons will stand up and say that it is. Often, when we've debated Kashmir, Mr. Deputy Speaker, people who speak more in favour of the Indian government's stance on this issue will often say, well, the position for those that live in Jammu and Kashmir is better because they are able to vote, they are free to take part in the democratic process, and that they are basically free, so that self-determination is not necessary because these are free people freely electing their own local leaders with a significant devolution of power. Well, Mr. Deputy Speaker, nobody, not one person in Jammu and Kashmir has voted to be hurt, to be injured, to be beaten up, to be raped, to be blinded, or to be killed. And pellet wounds are brutal. They are a brutal response by the Indian authorities. They send a brutal message to the Kashmiri people, and they leave brutal scars. And those scars are not just carried by those individuals who bear those scars physically, but they are borne by the whole community, both in Jammu and Kashmir, in the region itself, but all around the world. For those of us who are of Kashmiri extraction, they are a symbol of that population's repression and its desire to resist that repression and its cry to be heard. And that is a cry that is falling on deaf ears in, as I said, the largest democracy in the world, which wants to do more business with the rest of the world and play a greater role in world affairs. I'm afraid to say, Mr. Deputy Speaker, that current position is simply not acceptable, and our government must not shy away from making that plain, especially in relation to the use of pellet guns. Tremendous, appalling, sustained and deliberate misery has been visited upon the people of Kashmir for too long. The stories of disappearances, of the discovery of mass graves that has brought no official UN-led investigation whatsoever, the impunity of the police and the security forces, especially the implementation of the Special Powers Act of 1990. Mr. Deputy Speaker, if a people are humiliated and abused and allowed to lose hope and offered only despair in turn and no answers and no rights, then there will be uprising. It is inevitable. And none of us, as responsible legislators, also working in a democracy, can sit back and watch those events unfold and sit on our hands. We can do more. The legacy of empire demands that we do more. We have a duty to speak out more regularly. We have a duty to challenge as well as to encourage both the Indian and the Pakistani authorities. I have to say to the Minister, the written answers to the questions that have been tabled, particularly last summer, are so bland. It's as if these matters are something that is just a daily occurrence that can be ignored, and that's not good enough. There are other disputes in this world that elicit much stronger responses from the government when members of this House put down written questions, and that has not been the case in relation to the dispute in Kashmir. And in particular, there has been no definitive answer on whether the Prime Minister specifically raised the issue of human rights abuses with the Indian government. It is not enough to tell us that the issue of Kashmir was raised. We need to know whether the issue of human rights abuses and the use of pellet guns was raised. I know Mr. Deputy Speaker wants me to wind up, and I will do so. I believe it is now incumbent upon the British government to make a clear call at the United Nations, to raise this issue at the United Nations, to ask for an independent UN-led investigation into human rights abuses, so that we at least can demonstrate that whilst some parts of this world see this as a forgotten conflict or a conflict they want to be forgotten, we will never forget it and we will keep fighting.